Welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be looking at where art and technology kind of bump into each other.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, it's a big topic, but
Mm.
um, from the looks of your research, you're already pretty deep into this world. With all the philosophy and notes you've shared, even some of those thought-provoking internet theories.
Well, yeah, I mean, it feels like technology is changing everything about art right now, like how we make it, how we share it, even how we experience it as an
For
audience.
sure. And it's happening so fast.
Yeah.
Speaking of things happening fast, one of the things that caught my eye in your research was David Cope and his experiments in musical intelligence.
Oh, yeah, the EMI project.
Right. He basically created this program, this program that composes music, and it's like it's not just any music, it's music in the style of like Bach and Beethoven,
Yeah.
the heavy hitters. And he even fooled some experts with it.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Like, his work is a total head trip because it really makes you ask, what even is creativity? Like, is it something that's only human, or can machines actually, be creative in like a real sense?
Yeah, like if a computer can make music that sounds like Bach, I mean, what does that even mean for human composers?
Right.
Like, is that even possible?
Right. It's like, who's the real artist here,
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where Margaret Bowden's work on creativity comes in.
Good.
She says that AI can definitely be creative in certain ways, like what she calls combinational creativity, which is basically like taking existing ideas and mashing them together to make something new.
Oh, okay. So like kind of like a musical collage.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
the algorithm's got this massive database of styles and patterns, and it can just, piece them together in new and interesting ways.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But is that really the same as like the kind of creativity we see in human composers?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Bach didn't have a database, right?
Yeah.
He was creating something completely new.
You're totally right. That's a really good point. And that gets to the heart of this whole debate about whether AI can achieve what Bowden calls historical creativity, which is like, something truly original, something that's never been seen before.
Okay, so like totally new forms,
Yeah.
styles, techniques.
Yeah. And it makes you think about all the anxieties that someone like Jaron Lanier has.
Yeah.
He's really worried about technology diminishing human value.
Right, right.
Like, is this combinational creativity just, a fancy way of saying that we're all just data points?
Yeah. Are we all just being reduced to algorithms?
Right. It's a big question, and I think Lanier's concerns are super important to consider. Like, we really need to approach technology in a way that puts humans at the center, to make sure it's enhancing our lives and our creative potential, not diminishing it.
Totally agree. I think keeping that human element is crucial.
Yeah.
So speaking of human elements, you shared some notes on Hito Stiles' essay in defense of the poor image. What was it about her work that stood out to you?
What's fascinating about Sterile is how she flips the script on what we consider valuable in art. She's
Yeah.
like, hey, those low resolution images, those heavily circulated digital images, the ones we just call poor images,
Frame.
they can actually hold a ton of meaning. They can even like have political power.
Oh, I see what you mean, like memes, right?
Exactly. Like, they might be, low res, all compressed and stuff, but like they can spread like wildfire, and they can be so culturally relevant.
Yeah.
They can really make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. They carry so much weight.
Totally. And Sterile points out that poor images really challenge that whole art world thing, like the focus on perfect, high resolution, expensive pieces. They represent like a more democratic and accessible form of art, something that thrives on being shared and transformed.
So it's like art doesn't have to be all fancy and polished to be meaningful.
Right, exactly. It can be raw and imperfect
Yeah.
and still be powerful.
Like those old punk rock flyers.
Yeah, totally. It's like, think about it. She's contrasting that with the whole, flagship store mentality of the traditional art world, where value is all about exclusivity and high production value.
Right, right. And this reminds me of the concept of imperfect cinema, which you also mentioned in your notes. Like it's all about embracing that collaborative and accessible nature of filmmaking,
Yeah.
giving more people a chance to tell their stories.
Absolutely. It's about democratizing the creative process, and challenging those traditional gatekeepers of artistic expression.
Love it. Now, to change gears a bit, you mentioned the dead internet theory, which is a bit of a mind bender. It basically argues that a huge chunk of the internet is just bots and AI generated content.
Hmm.
And, it leads to this feeling of emptiness, like nothing is real anymore.
It's a really interesting theory, and it's definitely sparked some heated debates. I think, what's interesting is that it speaks to this feeling that a lot of us have online. That feeling of seeing the same thing over and over again, like we're stuck in some kind of echo chamber.
It's like that Monty Python sketch, the spam sketch, where everything is just spam.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. It really highlights how technology can create this sense of like absurdity and meaninglessness, which some people say is just the modern internet experience.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your research that you're a bit concerned about this idea of spamified content online. Like, are algorithms pushing creators to prioritize numbers over actual artistic expression?
That's a big concern that Evan Pushak, the nerd writer, talks about.
Oh yeah, I love his videos.
He's great. And he argues that, while algorithms can be helpful for discoverability and stuff, they can also kind of incentivize creators to chase trends, to try to game the system, and that can lead to less originality, less authenticity.
So it's not just about the bots and AI making content, it's about how algorithms might be influencing human creativity as well.
Right, exactly. It's like, are algorithms actually helping us express ourselves? Or are they kind of, limiting us in a way?
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's not all bad though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Alessina Villa in your research, and she seems to think there's still tons of good stuff out there, like educational stuff, even fun stuff, especially on platforms like YouTube.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Olivia's work is really cool. She like acknowledges all the craziness of the internet,
Good.
like just the sheer volume of
Oh, it's
content.
overwhelming.
Right. But she also sees the potential, like how these visual platforms can teach people things, connect people.
So it's not just about how much stuff is out there, but what that stuff is and who's making it and why.
Totally. It's about being mindful, like what am I watching, what am I reading, and how's that affecting me?
Right, right. Okay, so switching gears a bit. You mentioned Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto.
Yeah.
That's a pretty intense read.
Oh yeah, it's a classic. Haraway's ideas they can be tough to wrap your head around, but they're so insightful. Like she uses the cyborg as this metaphor
Okay.
to break down all these boundaries we have, like human versus machine, nature versus culture. She even talks about male versus female.
It's like all those lines are getting blurry, right? Especially now when technology is like everywhere.
Exactly. And she sees the cyborg as this figure of empowerment, especially for groups that have been marginalized.
Yeah.
It's about embracing that hybridity, that mix of human and machine, and challenging the systems that try to put us in boxes.
That makes sense. And this ties in really well with your research on hybrid communities,
Yeah.
right? Like, especially when it comes to art and technology. How are you seeing these communities forming?
Well, we're seeing artists from all different backgrounds, coming together online, collaborating in ways that just weren't possible before, sharing ideas, creating new forms of art, building these communities that challenge the old hierarchies.
That's so cool. It's like technology is breaking down all these walls and allowing more voices to be heard, more perspectives.
Exactly. And it's not just online either. There are also like physical spaces popping up where artists and tech people are getting together, experimenting, creating.
I love that. And it seems like you're particularly interested in kinetic sculpture, right?
Yeah.
Like bringing movement into your art.
Oh, totally. Kinetic sculpture is like this amazing way to explore the relationship between art and technology. Imagine like a sculpture that responds to its environment, to light, to sound, to even like the presence of viewers.
That'll be so cool.
Right. Technology can really enhance the whole experience for the viewer.
For sure. And this seems to connect with your focus on intentionality, right?
Right.
Like you mentioned that in your notes. It's about using technology to amplify your vision as an artist, not letting the technology take over.
Yeah, that's the key. It's about keeping that human element, that spark of creativity, of intention, even when you're working with really complex technology.
And I see you're really diving into that with your work in augmented reality and virtual reality.
Oh yeah, AR and VR they're like whole new worlds for artists. Like imagine a sculpture that exists both physically and virtually so people can like experience it on multiple levels.
Whoa, that'd be amazing.
It's like blurring those lines between the real and the digital,
Totally. And from your notes, it's clear that you're not just interested in the technical side of it, but like the philosophical implications too.
Oh, absolutely. AR and VR raise some big questions, like
Mhm.
what is reality even? What's the role of the viewer? How is technology changing the way we see the world?
Deep stuff. And that brings us back to that anxiety we were talking about earlier, right? Like this fear that technology might kind of overshadow human creativity. Do you think there's a risk that art might become like too focused on the technology itself, on the spectacle of AR and VR, and lose that human connection?
It's a valid concern, but I also think technology has the potential to actually enhance human connection. Like it can help us create these shared experiences, foster empathy and understanding.
I love that. It's not about being afraid of technology. It's
Mm,
about using it to be more human, more
yeah.
creative, more connected.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where technology helps us unlock our creative potential.
Right, right. And I think your interest in the spectrum of machine intelligence really speaks to that. Going from basic mechanics all the way to complex AI.
Yeah, I think it's important to experiment with different levels of technology in art. It helps me explore how much human intention is present in each piece, even when I'm using AI.
It's like you're saying, even in a world where algorithms are everywhere, the artist still has a voice.
Absolutely. It's about making conscious choices about how we use technology in our art, making sure it's serving our vision, not the other way around.
And it seems like you're really living that, like carefully choosing the tools and technologies that fit your goals,
Mm.
creating this really cool dialogue between human intention and technological innovation.
Yeah, it's about being intentional, being
Yeah.
mindful, and being playful, not being afraid to experiment, to push those boundaries, see where art and technology can take us.
And that's what makes your work so exciting. You're not just making art, you're starting a conversation.
That's what I love about art. It brings people together, it makes us think, makes us feel.
Like you're saying, hey, let's explore these crazy questions together. Let's see what we can make.
Exactly. That's where the magic happens when we step outside our comfort zones, challenge ourselves and allow ourselves to be surprised.
That's like that feeling of discovering something new, something you never expected. That's what keeps us going,
Mhm.
as artists, as humans.
And that's what makes this whole conversation about art and technology so exciting. It's not about finding all the answers, it's about embracing the questions, the uncertainty.
It's about that journey,
Mhm.
pushing boundaries, exploring, seeing where human creativity and technology can take us.
Who knows what we might find along the way.
This has been such a great deep dive. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface, though.
And the best part is this is just the beginning for you. Your artistic journey is just getting started.
It really does feel like we've covered so much, but I can also see how this is like just the beginning for you.
Totally. And that kind of brings me to something I think you'll find interesting as you move forward with your work. We've been talking about this tension between technology and artistic intention. So how do you think artists can harness all this amazing technology but still make work that feels authentic, human?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Especially
Hmm.
now when the lines between like physical and digital are getting so blurry.
You're in such a good spot to really tackle this. Your research has given you such a solid foundation. You understand the history, the theory, the potential pitfalls.
Yeah, it's like I've got this mental toolkit now, ready to go.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this. Like there are so many artists out there, grappling with these same questions, playing with these same tools.
It's like we're all part of this massive conversation about what the future of art even looks like.
Totally. And here's something to think about. Remember Hito's style and her idea of the poor image. Like what if you incorporated that aesthetic into your work?
Whoa, that's actually a really interesting idea. It could be a way to like really mess with people's expectations,
Yeah.
make a statement about how art is changing in this digital age.
Right. Take something that's often seen as like low quality and turn it into something powerful.
It's like taking those imperfections, the glitches, and making them like a part of the art.
Exactly. Embracing that rawness, that immediacy of digital culture, and using it to create something totally unique.
I'm so excited to see what you come up with. I have a feeling you're going to do some really amazing things.
You've got the knowledge, the passion, the vision. Now it's all about bringing it all together and letting your creativity run wild.
This whole deep dive was all about giving you that confidence to take your project to the next level. So keep learning, keep creating, keep pushing those boundaries.
And most importantly, have fun.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring this amazing world where art and technology collide.